Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the Congolese army fights fiercely to hold off M23 forces from the besieged eastern city of Goma as fierce battling kills at least 17 and sends thousands fleeing to safety. Meanwhile, the battling intensifies a humanitarian crisis that has already displaced hundreds of thousands since the start of the year. The African Union's Peace and Security Council calls an emergency meeting about the Congolese crisis. And World Cup semi-finalist Morocco draws in a group with Mali, Zambia and Comoros for the Men's 2025 Africa Cup of Nations tournament that it will be hosting. The December tournament will be its biggest ever soccer event. We hear the breakdown with our on-set experts. But first, at least 17 people have died as the Congolese army battles to hold on to Goma as M23 forces push their advantage and try to take complete control of the capital of North Kivu province. There are conflicting accounts about how much of the city has so far fallen to the armed groups since they claim to have seized full control of the city early on Monday. Thousands have been fleeing amidst intense fighting.
Gunshots rang out in Goma on Monday as the Congolese army and its allies fought Rwandan forces and Rwandan-backed M23 rebels in the North Kivu city. Kinshasa has called the Rwandan presence a declaration of war and called on residents to block out what they called manipulative Rwandan propaganda.
As regards the security situation in the city of Goma and the presence of the Rwandan army, we wish to reassure the population that following the president's instructions, the government is continuing to work to avoid carnage and the loss of human life in light of Rwanda's obvious intentions.
The government spokesperson also issued a call for residents to stay home and take cover, but evacuations continue. The current conflict has displaced more than 400,000 people in the region since the start of the year. And on Monday, the United Nations evacuated non-essential personnel from the eastern DRC into neighbouring Rwanda. Further south, in the South Kivu city of Bukavu, thousands came out to demonstrate, calling on Rwandan forces to retreat.
We're here to protest against this Rwandan aggression and denounce the threat already present on our soil, while also demanding peace in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. That is why we're here.
Tensions have long been high between the two neighbours. The Democratic Republic of Congo accuses Rwanda of trying to take over its mineral mines in the eastern border region, particularly rich in gold, a claim Kigali denies.
Now, according to the UN, more than 3,500 Rwandan soldiers entered Goma and have been fighting alongside the M23 there. Now, despite evidence to the contrary collected by UN investigators, Kigali still denies having supported the militia. But few diplomatic camps really appear to believe that. The UN's peacekeeping chief has even gone as far as to say that there is no question about Rwanda's involvement. Now, DR Congo broke off diplomatic relations with its neighbour late on Saturday. And during the latest bout of violence, Rwandan soldiers have also been firing on Congolese forces from across the border in the city of Gisenyi. That's where our Clement Roma is. He tells us more.
I've spent the day here in Gisenyi, the Rwandan border town next to the city of Goma in DR Congo, and we've heard prolonged exchanges of gunfire between Rwandan defense forces and the Congolese army along with its allies from early this morning to quite late this evening. According to the Rwandan army, several mortar shells and stray bullets landed on Rwandan territory, killing at least 5 civilians and injuring around 20 others. And the city's most important border crossing with Goma, nicknamed the Grande Barrière, was closed for most of the day, except in the morning when about 1,000 civilian employees from the MONUSCO, the UN peacekeeping mission in Congo, were evacuated with their families by a dozen buses provided by Kigali. According According to the Rwandan army, about 100 Congolese soldiers and their allies surrendered and handed over their weapons. They are currently in custody, and the Rwandan army says it plans to hand them back to the DRC in due course. The Rwandan government, accused of supporting the M23, said on Sunday that it was maintaining a reinforced defensive position to protect all of its borders and the population.
So Clement Jerome there for us. Now, dynamics are fluid and constantly changing in Goma, but since fighting really ratcheted up last week as the M23 advanced on the city, there has been a rush to evacuate amidst an already devastating humanitarian crisis. The city's Anglican bishop did manage to make it out just before the violence took a turn for the worse on Sunday into Monday, and he says that he's still worried about those he left behind.
So we fled in relative peace, but then as things transpired yesterday on Sunday, things got much more panicky. So yesterday, Sunday, was the day that the Rwandan army crossed over into Goma, over the eastern border, with many of the M23 rebels as well. And that's when they tried to take the airport, and then gradually yesterday afternoon, evening, and then into the early hours of this morning was when they took control of many parts of the city. And that's really when panic started to set in, people not knowing what was going on, who had control of which parts of the city. I think the wisdom up until that point had been, if the M23 did again take control of the city, it might be like 2012, it'd be relatively quick, and peace, or some semblance of peace, would be established fairly quickly. But as we speak, so the information I've had later this afternoon is there's still a lot of ongoing fighting.
Well, as we heard the bishop mention there, it's not the first time that the M23 has tried to take control of Goma. It did manage successfully to do so back in 2012. And the city, as a strategically valuable site, is no accident as being the focus of the militants' attention. Our Laurent Berstecker tells us more.
January 21st, 2025, M23 rebels captured the city of Minova, just 45 kilometers away from Goma, on the other side of Lake Kivu. A few days later, the town of Sake also fell to the Rwandan-backed insurgents, allowing them to completely encircle the North Kivu capital. Located on the Congolese-Rwandan border, Goma is one of the DRC's most populated cities and a major trading hub with neighboring countries. For Rwanda, it also represents an entry point into North Kivu, a region known for its abundance of valuable natural resources. Copper, tin, and gold, but also cobalt, coltan, and germanium, essential materials for fast-expanding industries like tech, armament, and renewable energies, and which Kinshasa is accusing Kigali of trying to acquire by backing the M23. Goma is also a regional security hub and is home to a major MONUSCO army base, the UN's peacekeeping mission in the country. The city was briefly captured by the M23 in 2012, but the rebels pulled out days later, following an agreement between Rwanda and the DRC.
Well, the fighting has intensified a humanitarian crisis that has displaced more than 400,000 people since just the start of the year. As regional fears grow that the conflict might tip over into an even wider war, the African Union's Peace and Security Council has called an emergency meeting about the conflict for Tuesday. And the leaders of Rwanda and DR Congo are due to attend a crisis summit a day later.
It is my belief that this engagement is absolutely necessary because we do not see, from where I sit, a possibility of a military solution to the challenges that faced Eastern DRC. Engagement, dialogue, consultations is the only viable way out of the situation in DRC. A direct engagement with M23 and all the other stakeholders in the theater in Eastern DRC is a necessity.
Well, in a change of tone, it is a big day for African football. As World Cup semi-finalist, Morocco was drawn in a group with Mali, Zambia and Comoros for the men's 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, a tournament that it will be hosting. Now, the Games will be the biggest football event in Morocco that it's ever had the honour of hosting. I'm joined now with our in-house sporting experts. James, we're going to start off with you. You know, I've just mentioned there just how high the stakes are for Morocco. What's it done to kind of level up to receive the kind of attention it's in for the AFCON?
Look, Georgia, we've just had, this evening, we've seen the draw and we've seen the kind of ceremony that they want to put on, a very welcoming ceremony they want to come across and give to everyone who's going to be there. Of course, they come off with the Ivory Coast having hosted previously, who are known for that and that reception. Morocco needs to go up above and beyond what Ivory Coast proposed last time round. And in terms of making it big, well, just today, actually, they announced that they're going to go from 6 stadiums initially for the Games to a total of 9. Now, there's going to be 4 in Rabat, 4 stadiums hosting Games. Also, Tangier, Agadir, Marrakesh, Casablanca and Fez. So all across the country, we're going to be having football fever taking across. It's big for the country, but also for the team. Morocco, you mentioned semi-finalists. That was incredible when they got to there playing against France, of course, in the last World Cup. But their last tournament in the Africa Cup of Nations was not, it was it wasn't what they were expected. They were out in the round of 16, struggled in that. They have stars in their team, still do, and they're going to need to really try and do something, because if they're going to win it, it'll be 50 years since the last time they won the trophy in AFCON. And that's not something that a team like Morocco is proud of in a way. They've been wanting to go much further for a very long time. And they have the men who can do it. We're in France, speaking of the likes of Hakimi in there, who can be crucial. We know how crucial this area of the field is for them in the tournament. So there's going to be a lot of hope. There's going to be time to prepare for it in between. But Morocco is going to want to shine. And sometimes, it can be tough. There's pressure at home, but it can also push. They'll have a first push against an outsider. They'll be playing Comoros in the opening game, a real outsider, only the second time that they're playing in the tournament. Let's see how they start, obviously, with that. That will give us a hint of how things can go, but anything is possible, of course, throughout it.
Thanks for that, James. And Kareem, how about you? We've got some big dogs, we've got some minnows, we had some very exciting turnout last time around. Who, for you, are you really keeping your eye on?
Yeah, the 6 groups are quite balanced, we should say. There is no group with 3 big teams. So when we look at the favorites of the competition, the major powerhouses, I would take a look at Egypt first, because we all know that Mohamed Salah, the Liverpool star, has never won the Africa Cup of Nations, and that could be one of his last chances to get it. So that wasn't quite good in the last time around. They were out very early into the competition. So we'll see whether they can do better, and this time on the North African soil. We know that sometimes Egypt managed to be better in North Africa than in Sub-Saharan Africa. And we can take a look as well at Senegal. They owe a revenge. The players of Pape Thiaw, the new head coach since last year, because they were out in front of Ivory Coast in the round of 16 last time around. And it's going to be interesting because this is a mix of very experienced players such as Sadio Mane, obviously we all know him, but also Idrissa Gueye, Kalidou Koulibaly, and youngsters such as Lamine Camara, which was one of the main youngsters in this squad. So plenty to watch. Niger as well with Osimhen and Ademola Lookman, and Ivory Coast obviously because they will be the title holders.
Thank you so much, Kareem and James. We will definitely be seeing a lot more of you as the tournament progresses. And thank you very much, viewers, for joining us for Eye on Africa. Please do so again if you can. Till then, take care.